shall be revoked. Now, he is entitled to a pre-sentence investigation report. Is that correct? Okay, then I will be sure to order one.
Imagine being a parent, standing in a courthouse, facing your own child on trial for murder. This is not just a case of good versus evil. It's a story about loyalty, family bonds, and the harsh realities of life in the streets. Welcome back to another episode of EOS, where we dive into the darker side of America's urban landscape. On July 28, 2025, a courthouse within the state of Florida would set an example on national television, a message to the streets of America that there is no honor amongst thieves. But the defendant isn't charged with stealing. He's charged with taking lives, man. Today, we're going to explore the case of Ksoo, 26-year-old Hakeem Robinson, known for his involvement in Jacksonville's drill scene as a member of ATK, alongside Young and Ace. His rise to fame was marred by controversy, particularly after the death of Julio Fulio in June 2024, but we'll get back to that later. Ksoo is currently standing trial for first-degree murder in the broad-day shooting of Charles Lil Buck McCormick, who was ambushed in a plaza after leaving a job interview. The details of this case are as shocking as they are disturbing. A witness at the trial would describe seeing Lil Buck lifeless on the ground, with his legs separated and half his face gone. His teeth were found on the sidewalk. The investigation used forensic video analysis combined with 3D laser modeling to study the shooter's height, weight, and build. This was done to compare it to Ksoo's dimensions, which led investigators to a crucial piece of evidence: Ksoo's fingerprint left on a rifle found in a crashed vehicle. However, additional evidence would come from an unexpected source. Dominique Barnes, aka Butter, was the driver during the murder and admitted his participation. To save himself, he agreed to testify against Ksoo, claiming that Ksoo had paid him to carry out the hit. But here's where things get even more complicated. Butter is now testifying for a lesser sentence, securing a 20-year prison deal in exchange for his testimony. While being betrayed by a friend can be a major blow, it pales in comparison to what happens next. Ksoo's father, Abdul Robinson, aka Blue, would also take the stand against his son. Charged with accessory after the fact, Blue faced up to 60 years in prison, but agreed to a plea deal reducing his potential sentence to no more than 20 years, while agreeing to testify against his own son. The state would later agree to recommend a sentence of only 76 months, or just over 6 years for Blue. This decision came 2 years after video of his police interrogation dropped, where he could be seen naming his son as the shooter. But on July 28, 2025, Blue took the stand facing his own son and said these powerful words: "Sitting here today, you realize that you are testifying against not only co-defendants, but family members. Why are you doing that? I got some health issues." Blue's statement raises more questions than it answers. Is this a case of loyalty over justice, or is there something more at play here? As we continue to explore the details of Ksoo's trial, one thing becomes clear: nothing in this case is as straightforward as it seems. As we continue to unravel the complex web of loyalty and betrayal in the streets, one story stands out: that of Ksoo's father taking the stand against his own son. It's a tale that raises more questions than it answers about the true nature of family bonds and the consequences of choosing justice over loyalty. The courtroom scene is tense as Ksoo's father testifies, his words hanging in the air like a challenge to everything his son has ever stood for. "I got some health issues," he says, a hint of vulnerability creeping into his voice. It's a stark contrast to the hardened stance he's taken against his own flesh and blood. But it's not just Ksoo's father who's struggling with the weight of his decision. The impact on their family is evident in the way they've cut him out, leaving him isolated and alone. "I really don't have no more relationship with my family," he admits, the pain etched on his face. As we delve deeper into Ksoo's case, it becomes clear that his father's decision to cooperate wasn't an easy one. In fact, it was the hardest choice he's ever had to make in his life. The emotional toll is evident in every word, every gesture, as he recounts the events leading up to his son's arrest. But what about Ksoo himself? How does he feel about being accused by his own father? We know from the source material that Ksoo has a reputation for being a reliable shooter on the streets. His father's words: "Yeah, that video that's him. That's my son. are a blow to everything Ksoo thought he knew about their relationship. The case against Ksoo is mounting, with multiple charges and a history of violence.
The murder trial of Jacksonville rapper Hakeem Ksoo Robinson and his cousin Leroy Whitaker. It's one step closer to going to the jury. Closing arguments began this afternoon. Both men are charged in the 2020 shooting death of 23-year-old Charles Lil Buck McCormick Jr. Prosecutors say the motive involved a diss track McCormick created. News 4 Jax reporter Brianna Brownlee has been following this trial from the beginning. She's joining us now live outside the courthouse with the latest on this.
Yes, it was a day full of disruptions in the courtroom.
That's left many in the community shaken. The video recording that captured the murder of Charles McCormick has been a key piece of evidence, and it's clear from the testimony that Ksoo's father had no choice but to acknowledge his son's involvement. But what about the consequences for Ksoo himself? Will he face justice for his actions, or will his family ties prove too strong? The stakes are high as we wait with bated breath for the outcome of this complex and deeply personal case. One thing is certain, nothing in this story is as straightforward as it seems. The impact of snitching on Ksoo's case cannot be overstated. With a slim chance of beating the charges, he now faces another hurdle, the loyalty of his own family. His father may have testified against him, but what about the rest? Will they stick by their brother and friend, or will they abandon him to face the music alone? We know from history that snitching in the streets can come with a heavy price. Ksoo's dad himself is facing up to 20 years for his role in 2 murders, and even if he gets a reduced sentence, he won't be free until he's well over 40 years old. It's a stark reminder of what happens when loyalty is tested by the demands of justice. As we reflect on this case, it's hard not to think about the countless others who have been caught up in the cycle of violence and betrayal. The streets may seem like a lawless frontier, but in reality, they're governed by their own rules that are often harsh and unforgiving. In the end, Ksoo's case raises more questions than it answers about the true nature of loyalty and family bonds. Will he emerge from this ordeal with his dignity intact, or will the weight of his actions crush him? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. Nothing in this story will ever be the same again. The trial of Ksoo has exposed a dark underbelly of the streets, where loyalty and betrayal walk hand in hand. As we continue to follow this case, one thing becomes clear. The consequences of choosing justice over loyalty can be devastating. Will Ksoo find redemption, or will he succumb to the same cycle of violence that has consumed so many before him? Only time will tell, but for now, let's take a closer look at the events leading up to Ksoo's arrest and the role his own father played in bringing him down. The source material provides us with a glimpse into Ksoo's personal life, where he struggled to balance his responsibilities as a parent with his involvement on the streets. His kids were waiting for him to come to their daddy-daughter dance, football games, and even teach them how to play a game together. But it was clear that something had changed. Ksoo's father testifies about Ksoo's involvement in the crime, acknowledging that he recognized his son on the video recording. "Yeah, that video that's him. That's my son," he says with a mix of sadness and resignation. The implications are stark. Ksoo's own family has turned against him, leaving him to face the consequences alone. His father's words are a double blow, both as a betrayal and as an acknowledgement of his involvement in the crime. As we examine the case against Ksoo, it becomes clear that nothing is as straightforward as it seems. The loyalty of his own family has been tested, and it's clear which side they chose. Will Ksoo emerge from this ordeal with his dignity intact, or will he succumb to the same cycle of violence that has consumed so many before him? Only time will tell, but one thing is certain. Nothing in this story will ever be the same again. The consequences for Ksoo himself are still unclear. Will he face justice for his actions, or will his family ties prove too strong? The stakes are high as we wait with bated breath for the outcome of this complex and deeply personal case. In the end, it's not just about Ksoo. It's about the countless others who have been caught up in the cycle of violence and betrayal. The streets may seem like a lawless frontier, but in reality, they're governed by their own rules that are often harsh and unforgiving. As we continue to follow this case, one thing becomes clear. The consequences of choosing justice over loyalty can be devastating. Will Ksoo find redemption, or will he succumb to the same cycle of violence that has consumed so many before him? The trial of Ksoo has exposed the dark underbelly of the streets, where loyalty and betrayal walk hand in hand. As we continue to explore this case, one thing becomes clear. Nothing in this story is as straightforward as it seems. But what about the other cases against Ksoo? Will he face justice for his actions, or will his family ties prove too strong? The stakes are high as we wait with bated breath for the outcome of this complex and deeply personal case. As we delve deeper into the case of Ksoo, it becomes increasingly clear that his actions are a direct result of the environment he grew up in. His father, Blue, is someone who has
today from a 2-hour delay because of witnesses and technical issues from the court causing audio issues during testimony as well as closing arguments. And in a surprising twist, someone from the Robinson family was banned from the courtroom because they were live streaming testimony. However, despite all this, closing arguments did happen, but this was after Hakeem Robinson's older sister took the stand to defend her baby brother.
Hell no.
This was the immediate reaction from Hakeem Robinson's older sister when she first saw the photo of the
name in Jacksonville and was allegedly involved in snitching back in the 90s or early 2000s. This fact raises questions about the kind of influence he had on Ksoo's life. Did Blue project a gangster image to his son, instilling in him at an early age the idea that this was the path to follow? And if so, did Ksoo's loyalty lie more with his family than with the law? The concept of loyalty and its blurred lines is central to this case. The streets may seem like a lawless frontier, but as we've seen time and again, there are rules that govern them, harsh and unforgiving as they may be. Ksoo's actions have consequences, not just for himself, but also for those around him. His relationships with his family members are complicated, to say the least. There's a sense in which he was raised by Blue, who was supposed to be a positive influence on his life. Instead, it seems that Blue projected an image of being a gangster onto Ksoo, and this has led to the kind of cycle of violence we're seeing play out. The mention of public information falling into the wrong hands is a chilling one. We see how easily it can lead to devastating consequences, as in the case of Charles Lil Buck McCormick, whose address was found on a government website, leading to his murder. This serves as a stark reminder that even when we think we're doing the right thing by making public information accessible, there are potential risks and consequences we must consider. As we explore this case further, it's worth examining Ksoo's actions more closely. Was he simply a victim of circumstance, or did his choices contribute to the situation in which he finds himself? The fact that he has been accused of several serious crimes, including murder, suggests that his loyalty may not have lain with the law after all. There are many questions surrounding Ksoo's case, and perhaps the most significant one is whether justice will be served. Will he face the consequences of his actions, or will his family ties prove too strong? The trial of Ksoo has exposed the dark underbelly of the streets, where loyalty and betrayal walk hand in hand. As we continue to follow this case, one thing becomes clear. Nothing in this story is as straightforward as it seems. The concept of snitching comes up frequently in discussions surrounding Ksoo's case. The idea that someone like Blue can turn informant and cooperate with the authorities, potentially putting others at risk, raises complex questions about loyalty and accountability. If you were to apply the same logic to Ksoo himself, could we say that he's a victim of circumstance? Or is there more to his story? We see examples of how this dynamic plays out in the streets. People want to go to war, but they often fail to realize that the consequences can be devastating for both themselves and others. Innocent people die, lives are ruined, and families are torn apart. And as we delve deeper into Ksoo's case, it becomes increasingly clear that this is a reality he must face. As we explore the intricacies of this case further, one thing becomes apparent. The stakes are high. Will Ksoo find redemption, or will he succumb to the same cycle of violence that has consumed so many before him? The outcome is far from certain, and as we wait with bated breath for the result, it's worth considering the broader implications of this case. The role of public information in facilitating these kinds of consequences cannot be overstated. We see how easily someone can use publicly available data to track down an individual or uncover a secret. This raises important questions about privacy and security. particularly in cases where individuals are at risk of harm due to their actions or associations. As we weigh the evidence and consider Ksoo's case, it's worth examining his relationship with his family members more closely. Were they truly innocent bystanders? Or did they play a role in enabling his behavior? The fact that Blue was allegedly involved in snitching back in the day raises questions about his influence on Ksoo's life. We've seen cases where people have cooperated with authorities and then sought to turn informant, often for their own benefit. This raises complex questions about loyalty, accountability, and the consequences of one's actions. If you were to apply this logic to Ksoo himself, could we say that he's a victim of circumstance? Or is there more to his story? The streets are a harsh environment, governed by rules that can be unforgiving at times. We see how easily someone can get caught up in the cycle of violence and lose sight of what's truly important. And as we explore Ksoo's case further, it becomes increasingly clear that this is a reality he must face. We've touched on the concept of snitching and its role in facilitating consequences for those involved. But there's another aspect to consider, one that speaks directly to the heart of Ksoo's story: loyalty. Where does it lie?
Alleged gunman in the 2020 killing of Charles McCormick, and it was questioned if it was her younger brother. In court Wednesday, even now, years later, with her brother on trial accused of that murder, she testified there's no way that's him.
He's approximately 5'8" to 5'10", black male.
Tim Graham is now a retired JSO officer, but 5 years ago, on the day of the shooting, he was one of the officers chasing the shooter and gave the description of 5'8" and a bit athletic.
Did you see this person jump a couple of fences?
Absolutely.
He was able to evade Officer Prater?
And me.
Robinson's sister didn't hold back when describing her brother, painting a different picture.
With family, with friends, or with oneself? And what are the costs of choosing justice over loyalty? As we reflect on this case, it's worth considering the broader implications of Ksoo's actions. Will he face justice for his crimes, or will his family ties prove too strong? The stakes are high, and as we wait with bated breath for the outcome, it's clear that nothing in this story is as straightforward as it seems. The case of Ksoo is a complex one, full of twists and turns that raise more questions than answers. But at its core lies a fundamental truth: the consequences of our actions have real-world implications. As we navigate the complexities of this case, it's worth remembering that loyalty and betrayal walk hand in hand on the streets. As we continue to explore Ksoo's story, one thing becomes clear: nothing is as straightforward as it seems. There are many questions surrounding his case, including whether he will face justice for his actions or if his family ties will prove too strong. The stakes are high, and as we wait with bated breath for the outcome, it's worth considering the broader implications of this case. The streets may seem like a lawless frontier, but in reality, they're governed by their own rules that can be harsh and unforgiving at times. We see how easily someone can get caught up in the cycle of violence and lose sight of what's truly important. And as we explore Ksoo's case further, it becomes increasingly clear that this is a reality he must face. The role of public information in facilitating these kinds of consequences cannot be overstated. We see how easily someone can use publicly available data to track down an individual or uncover a secret. This raises important questions about privacy and security, particularly in cases where individuals are at risk of harm due to their actions or associations. As we weigh the evidence and consider Ksoo's case, it's worth examining his relationship with his family members more closely. Were they truly innocent bystanders? Or did they play a role in enabling his behavior? The fact that Blue was allegedly involved in snitching back in the day raises questions about his influence on Ksoo's life. The concept of loyalty and its blurred lines is central to this case. We see how easily it can be manipulated, often for one's own benefit. This raises complex questions about accountability, justice, and the consequences of one's actions. If you were to apply this logic to Ksoo himself, could we say that he's a victim of circumstance? Or is there more to his story? We've touched on the idea that Ksoo was raised by Blue, who projected an image of being a gangster onto him. But what about the other cases against Ksoo? Will he face justice for his actions, or will his family ties prove too strong? The outcome is far from certain, And as we wait with bated breath for the result, it's worth considering the broader implications of this case. As we explore this story further, one thing becomes clear. Nothing in this narrative is as straightforward as it seems. There are many questions surrounding Ksoo's case, including whether he will find redemption or succumb to the same cycle of violence that has consumed so many before him. As we delve deeper into the complex case of Ksoo, it becomes increasingly clear that his story is a stark reflection of the societal cycle he has been accused of perpetuating. The notion that family ties can be a powerful force in determining one's fate is not new, but in Ksoo's case, it seems particularly poignant. His early life, marked by a tumultuous relationship with Blue, who projected an image of being a gangster onto him, sets the stage for a pattern of behavior that would later lead to his arrest. The question on everyone's mind is whether justice will prevail or if Ksoo's family connections will somehow mitigate his responsibility. This is not just about Ksoo. It's about understanding how these dynamics play out in real-life scenarios. In examining the case, we can see that there are layers upon layers of complexity at work. One key aspect to consider is the way Ksoo was raised. Growing up under Blue's tutelage, he was likely exposed to a world where loyalty and strength were paramount. It's possible that this environment shaped his worldview in profound ways, influencing how he interacted with others and made decisions throughout his life. However, did this upbringing also contribute to the actions that landed him behind bars? Moreover, it's essential to ponder the broader implications of Ksoo's case. What does this story say about our society, particularly in relation to issues of family ties, loyalty, and redemption? Can individuals escape their past, or are they forever bound by the choices made under the influence of those around them? These questions underscore the complexity of Ksoo's situation and invite us to think more.
He's around 6'3".
And keep in mind, shooter doesn't stop, say measure me. He's running and gunning.
The state argued that size descriptions may have varied because the shooter was in motion and it was a chaotic scene. During closing arguments, the state addressed the height and weight concerns, saying some witnesses didn't give the exact measurements because it was a quick, intense situation, adding that Robinson may have gained weight since the
more critically about the intricate web of relationships that shape our lives. One can't help but wonder if there are parallels between Ksoo's journey and others who have faced similar circumstances. Have we seen patterns like this before? Or is each case uniquely distinct? Perhaps a closer examination of past scenarios will offer insights into why some individuals seem trapped in cycles of violence, while others manage to break free. As we navigate these questions, one thing becomes increasingly apparent. Nothing about Ksoo's story is clear-cut. Every aspect, from his upbringing to the nature of his actions, raises more questions than answers. It's this ambiguity that makes his case so compelling, a testament to the complexities of human experience and the power of environment in shaping our paths. Now, let us turn to the specifics of Ksoo's situation. We've mentioned his early life with Blue, but what about the other key figures in his life? Are there others who played significant roles in shaping his behavior and decisions? The answers may lie in the intricate network of relationships that surrounded him, influencing every step he took. As we continue to unravel the threads of Ksoo's narrative, one thing becomes increasingly evident. His story is a microcosm for larger issues at play within our society. It's not just about Ksoo. It's about understanding how these dynamics affect us all. By examining his case closely, we may uncover valuable lessons that can be applied to our own lives and the world around us. Ultimately, the outcome of Ksoo's situation is far from certain. Will he face justice for his actions, or will family ties prove too strong? As we await the result, it's essential to continue exploring the deeper implications of this case, delving into themes that resonate with all of us. In doing so, we may uncover a more profound understanding not only of Ksoo, but also of ourselves and our place within this intricate web of relationships. As time ticks away, the world holds its breath in anticipation of what's to come for Ksoo. Will his story be one of redemption or continuation of the cycle that has plagued so many before him? Only time will tell, but as we wait, it's crucial to engage with these fundamental questions, recognizing the intricate dance between individual actions and societal forces at play. The question of whether Ksoo will find redemption is a complex one. Is his case an isolated incident or part of a larger pattern? By examining the specifics of his situation, perhaps we can uncover clues that shed light on this mystery. What did his upbringing say about his future? And what does his present tell us about his capacity for change? In reflecting on Ksoo's story, it becomes clear that there are no easy answers. The lines between right and wrong blur, making it challenging to discern the truth behind his actions. Yet, by persisting in our inquiry, we may uncover a more nuanced understanding of this multifaceted case. Perhaps the key to unlocking Ksoo's future lies not just within himself, but also within the community that raised him. Can those around him, including Blue and others who influenced his life path, serve as catalysts for change, or will they continue to perpetuate the same patterns of violence? This question resonates deeply, not only in relation to Ksoo's case, but also in our broader societal context. We often speak about breaking cycles, but what does this truly mean when applied to real-life scenarios? Does it imply a complete transformation of an individual, or can there be partial redemption? As we ponder these questions, one thing remains certain. The outcome for Ksoo and his community is far from predetermined. The complex interplay between family ties, loyalty, and individual actions continues to shape this narrative in profound ways. In conclusion, as we reflect on the case of Ksoo, it's essential to acknowledge that there are no clear answers. His story serves as a powerful reminder that our lives are intricately connected by threads of relationships and societal expectations. It's within these complex dynamics that the outcome for Ksoo, or anyone facing similar circumstances, is decided. Ultimately, what we're left with is a sense of uncertainty, a reflection of the messy realities that govern human experience. But perhaps this very ambiguity holds the key to understanding the deeper implications of Ksoo's story and our own place within these intricate webs of relationships. Ultimately, what we're left with is a sense of uncertainty, a reflection of the messy realities that govern human experience. But perhaps this very ambiguity holds the key to understanding the deeper implications of Ksoo's story and our own place within these intricate webs of relationships.
July 28th, 2025. A courthouse within the state of Florida would set an example on national television, a message to the streets of America that there is no honor amongst thieves. But the defendant isn't charged with stealing, he's charged with taking lives. Man, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another episode of EOS. It's 1090 Jake, and I'm rocking with y'all and y'all rocking with me. And for this video, we're gonna be speaking on Ksoo and his own father taking the stand against him.